But first, let's discuss the news headlines of the week. We bring in, as we do every week, Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Herald News. Hey, Will, how are you?
I'm good, Keith. How's it going?
I'm doing well, thanks. Let's first talk about the continuing saga of the Oak Grove Cemetery and the removal of personal artifacts from the grave sites there. The Board of Park Commissioners met yesterday to take up the issue. It's actually their first meeting since a number of incidents has happened. As some people may know, the board voted to have the staff at the cemetery remove personal items after a period of time, and also went sort of above and beyond that to also remove decorative urns and flower pots, some of which have been there for many, many years, removed from the site, and a lot of discourse arose because of that. The Board of Park Commissioners met yesterday and basically said it was our fault that happened. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks like one of the board members conducted an internal investigation, went through meeting tapes, reviewed the minutes, all that kind of stuff, and clearly determined that it was a vote of the board on a 4-to-1 vote, I believe, to essentially clear out all personal items, which stretched from the previous items such as silk flowers and decorative type of smaller items to include the larger planters, fence posts, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so from that review, they're sort of placing the blame on themselves. They're saying the finger shouldn't be pointed at the mayor's office and his administration, or the recently resigned interim parks director Nancy Smith. Kind of stating the directions were being followed by the vote of the board. So at this point, they are taking full responsibility for what happened at Oak Grove Cemetery.
Did they talk at all about moving forward? What will be the regulations on such artifacts going forward, and whether it will continue to be removed, or are they looking at maybe replacing some of those planters that have been there for so long?
Well, they want to start looking at some state regulations, especially for historic cemeteries, to find out what the common practices are statewide for maintenance, items allowed, that kind of thing. So they'll continue to review the cemetery issue. I would say lessons learned from this whole situation is that they need to know more information about how cemeteries are managed, how they're upkept, what items are appropriate, what items are not. And that seems to be this sort of fact-finding aspect that they're going to go forward with from this point.
All right. Well, let's move on. This morning, Mayor Jazio Correa welcomed the Lieutenant Governor to Fall River, as it was announced that the city is receiving some funding to help spruce up the State Pier area down on the waterfront. And tell us about that.
Yeah, so Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito was in the city this morning to join city officials for the announcement of a $1.6 million award from the Mass Works program to help sort of revitalize the city pier. This will allow for work to shore it up, put in steel pilings, fill in with some dirt, gravel, that kind of material, and get it prepared for redevelopment use. Fall River was one of, I believe, roughly 35 communities out of about 118 that applied for this type of funding. So a good little chunk of money that has been needed for quite a while with the city pier.
Now, this location is not, some people may confuse this with the State Pier. This is actually part of the land that is, I would say, just north of the Cove restaurant. That correct? Near Point Gloria, that area?
Yeah, it's that section that you might see jutting out from like the boardwalk area in between the Cove and Point Gloria. So completely separate from the State Pier. This has been, I think it's been used for parking by the Cove recently. There's been a lot of talk about development, especially as the next phase of the Route 79 project moves forward. So yeah, this is a key part. There's been talk about a marina there, more boat access, that kind of thing, and even ideas such as a hotel on the site as well. So, but that will be to come. Work there isn't supposed to be completed until next August or so, and beginning in next spring. So. Be a while before we really see the outcome of what goes there, but at least there's the fund in there to get started.
Right, and definitely movement down on the waterfront, something we've heard for many, many years here in Fall River. Finally, this week, the city of Fall River officially has a new fire chief. as Chief John Lynch was sworn in on Monday. Not really any big news as the City Council approved his contract last week, but it appears that Chief Lynch is being well received throughout the city.
Yeah, he certainly is viewed as a pretty popular chief. There's a big turnout from amongst the fire department and EMS staffs there for the swearing in on Monday. So a supportive end for Chief Lynch, 31-year firefighter here in Fall River. So I think he's probably got a lot of connections in the department. A lot of people are happy to see him elevated to the top spot. And he's been described by a couple of people. He's a firefighter's firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
So lives the position, and hopefully it's smooth sailing going forward for Chief Lynch.
All right, Will, what's coming up at the paper over the next few days?
Yeah, so this weekend we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the state of the city's pension system. It's got a couple $100 million short of where it probably should be to ensure full coverage for all retirees going into the future. So we're taking a look at where that stands, and also on a sort of self-promotion note on behalf of the Herald News, just want to mention we are kicking off the holiday fund tonight with our annual fundraiser, and donations, we'll be looking for those going forward, heading towards the Christmas season and holiday season, so that we can help support the Salvation Army and Citizens for Citizens with their efforts this year.
Sounds good. And you won't be joining us next week, so have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good. Thanks to all you guys.